Welcome to the Talk Sox Podcast. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm joined by Maddie. How's it going?
Doing well. We had a snow day today. First snow of the year. Just mostly ice. We didn't get that much snow, but
We
staying warm.
also had our first snow of the year.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a dusting at best. So nothing too crazy. All of my students, at school yesterday were like, "Oh, I think we're going to be out tomorrow." No, not even a little bit. So as I commuted to work today during the 30-minute drive where I live, um, we had a pretty good dusting, like maybe a quarter inch to a third of an inch. By the time I got to the district that I work in, there was no snow, so they were very upset. But today, if you're watching the YouTube feed, you'll notice one that our boxes are a little smaller. That's because we're playing around trying to get some stuff to work correctly. We're gonna do some troubleshooting between now and the next episode. But for those of you who are watching and listening, the day of this post, December 3rd, is the 1 year birthday, anniversary, whatever you want to call it, of the Talk Sox podcast.
Yay. Feliz cumpleaños.
That is super exciting. It honestly, to me, doesn't feel like we've been doing this for the past year. We've had a lot of great stuff to talk about, which has been awesome. We did our first live streams just a couple of months ago. And just a big shout out to Brock and Talk Sox for putting this together and allowing Maddie and I to do this on a weekly basis during the season and a bi-weekly basis here during the off season. And thank you to everybody who's been listening. Without you guys, we're just kind of shouting into the Red Sox void. And while that's fun from time to time, depending on the social media platform that you're on, I think it gets kind of old. And so thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And here's to more signings.
Winter meetings are coming up.
Right. Not long after the first episode is when Garrett Crochet was traded for. So I'm going to say that the Talk Sox podcast is good luck for the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, the winter meetings start Sunday, next Monday, the 8th. Around the 8th through the 10th, I believe, in Orlando. I really need him to come back to Nashville so that way I can take some PTO and go.
Just hang out in the lobby?
Yeah, just see who I see. But, I mean, this is kind of, this has been an odd off season. We had the Sonny Gray trade, which we had the kind of emergency pod last week about with my buddy Richard McGill, which if you haven't listened to that, go back. Richard's got a ton of great insight about Sonny and what he's going to do here in Boston. But there's been way more trades pre-winter meetings and even signings, like the Josh Naylor signing with the Mariners. Good on them for locking him up long term, for trading for him and then locking him up long term. This just feels like a very different offseason, though. Typically, we don't have these kind of deals unless, Theo Epstein goes to Kurt Schilling's house and has Thanksgiving dinner with him.
And gets food poisoning.
Yeah. But I'm not sad that we've had all this action. It makes me think that at the winter meetings, there's going to be a ton of movement. Hopefully, the Red Sox are involved in that. I think probably the biggest thing that's come out in the past week is that the Red Sox are interested, very interested. It's kind of hard to tell. Everybody's playing it kind of pretty guarded in the ace of the Kansas City Royals starting rotation, Cole Ragans. Not to spoil the end where we talk about the pieces that we have coming up, I'm finishing up a piece in conjunction with a writer from our Royals affiliate, which is going to be really, really cool. I'll shout him out. His name is Philip Rue, Ruo, Philip Rao. If I said that wrong, man, I apologize. But we're working on something cool, looking at some trade packages and, fits for each team. So Cole Ragans, who on this roster would you not trade for him, Maddie?
This is a loaded question. Well, Anybody not named Roman Anthony and Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, and I think that's where the list stops.
Or Carlos Narvaez, too.
Yeah, Narvi. I definitely want to keep Narvi. We are a Narvi truther podcast. We believe that he will repeat his first year in Boston success next year. But man, I mean, if the Red Sox, in my opinion, are in a really good spot with this deal because one, it's pretty obvious that the Royals really, really want Jarren Duran, and we'll get to him in a second. Um, but two, at the trade deadline, when the Joe Ryan deal fell through and the Dustin May deal happened, the Red Sox were kind of over a barrel. Everybody knew they needed pitching. After the addition of Sonny Gray, who, depending on who you ask, is a 3, a hybrid 2. Breslow has obviously stayed away from giving him any kind of qualifier like that. But after the Sonny Gray trade, the Red Sox aren't in a position or the Red Sox are in a position where they don't have to swing a deal for another pitcher if they don't want to. There's plenty of pitchers on the free agent market. I know Dylan Cease has gone to the Blue Jays for what is, in my opinion, a massive overpay. Was it 7 years, 210?
Yeah, that's too much for him. But good for him for getting his paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for players getting any amount of money that they're owed. You'll never see me side with ownership when it comes to paying players and not paying players. So good on Cease and good on the Blue Jays. They were 2 outs away from being World Series champions against the juggernaut that is the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they think that Cease is the person who can put them over the edge. The Red Sox have to keep pace now, though. The Sonny Gray deal on its own, if the Blue Jays didn't make that signing, I think the Red Sox are still arguably 1A, 1B, 1C in terms of who could win the AL East next year between us, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. Now, even though the odds makers in Vegas may disagree when they come out, I think the Blue Jays should probably be the odds-on favorite to win the AL East right now, provided that no other moves are made. I think Cole Ragans would almost swing that directly into the Red Sox favor.
I agree. I was looking at Fangraph's rotation projections, and the Red Sox have the second best rotation after the Gray trade as of now.
Yeah.
They're better than the Phillies. So, I think, trading for Ragans would really put them over the edge there.
The one kind of pause I guess I have with the Ragans trade is your 1 and 2 would both be left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Red Sox go all in and just do an entirely lefty starting rotation, and they're all vying for Cy Youngs, and they trade for Tarek Skubal, and everything is just magical here in Boston. But honestly, I think realistically, if with the position the Red Sox are in, like I said earlier, they don't have to rush into anything. The ball is in their court. If they don't like the deal that the Royals put together, they can be like, cool, no thanks, and walk away. But I would be shocked if we come out of the winter meetings without some sort of addition. I really like Cole Ragans. I think that Mackenzie Gore might still be on the table. Now that Paul Taboni is the GM of the Nats, outside of Chaim Bloom, there's really nobody else who knows that farm system as well as Paul. Obviously, Breslow isn't afraid to deal with, former GMs, former employees of the Boston Red Sox. He just traded for Sonny Gray. Although both players that were sent back to the Cardinals are not players that Chaim drafted, which I think is interesting. But I wouldn't hate a Mackenzie Gore trade, but I think that Cole Ragans is. I want him over Joe Ryan. I want him over Michael King. I want him over Framber Valdez. I don't know if there's anybody outside of Tarek Skubal that I would want more than Cole Ragans.
Yeah, I agree for the trade You listed some free agents there. I mean, I still think Imai would be a great addition,
Yes.
but
Mm-hmm.
With the recent comments, or just comments from the Sean McAdam article about the Red Sox taking on or operating at a modest financial loss if they
Yeah,
went
I don't
over the
like
first
that.
CBT
I don't like
threshold.
that at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's still early December. There's a lot of off season to happen now,
Yeah.
so yeah,
It,
I'm not taking it too seriously, but
realistically, and I figured we probably feel the same way about this. The Red Sox need to not care about the financial implications until they start losing draft picks because of
mhm.
um, Fenway Park prints money. It is a destination for baseball fans in general, not just Red Sox fans, baseball fans in general. The area that's been built up around the stadium is doing quite well. Um, the Red Sox are one of the most profitable teams in the league. I don't care about John Henry's modest financial loss. If you're that concerned about it, sell your soccer team, sell your NASCAR team, do whatever you need to do.
The
Um,
Penguins too.
yeah, the Penguins. I forget that they own the Penguins. That's so stupid. But if you're so concerned about financial losses, you have assets that you could move to make sure that the Red Sox don't bankrupt you. Not that they would anyway, but the Red Sox are the most expensive ticket in baseball still, I believe.
hmm
Their concessions are incredibly expensive, and it's still a full ballpark pretty much every day. So I don't think that John Henry is actually absorbing a modest financial loss should the Red Sox go over the first tax threshold or the second. Um, spend the money, put a winning product on the field, and really, you don't have to worry about anything. And it's kind of apples to oranges, but you look at like the Shohei Ohtani situation in LA, like people thought that deal was insane. It's already come out that the Dodgers made their money back in the first year just on like merchandise sales and tickets, and like they are operating at a plus value on Shohei Ohtani after 1 year. Not that the Red Sox have anybody like that, but they could get close with the team of Anthony and Crochet, and you add in Cole Ragans, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, somebody that can help push the team over the edge. And I don't think that a modest financial um, downfall is coming for John Henry. I struggle to feel bad for billionaires. And
Yeah, well, I don't disagree there.
so with the Cole Ragans thing, and we touched on it a little bit, is the Kansas City Royals have been linked to Jarren Duran really for the past year. That kind of got started back again at the trade deadline. We talked about it on here. I wrote a few articles about it. But it came out yesterday, Monday the 1st. Let me pull the actual tweet up so that way I'm reading it correctly. It says this is from Gordo, but it's talking about Passan and Kylie McDaniel. It says, according to Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel, the Red Sox are valuing Jarren Duran more like the 7-win player he was in 2024 in trade talks than the 4-win player he was in 2025. And I think right now I agree with that mentality. There's no reason to sell Jarren Duran for for pennies on the dollar. But at the end of the day, an outfielder needs to be moved. And so I think that maybe they're overvaluing just a touch because Alex Cora seems to love Duran. That seems to be his guy. And so you have to figure that he's kind of in Breslow's ear about it. I don't know. What do you think, Maddie? It's a weird situation in my opinion. If they're valuing him like a 7-win player, then he's worth Cole Ragans 1-for-1, since Ragans
hmm
didn't pitch a full season last year.
Well, teams have their own projection models to, try to accurately guess players' future value based on past performance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just Duran did better this year than he did in 2023, which was his
Yep.
first, full season in the majors.
Yep.
So, yeah, even then, he still was a top 30 position player in the
Right.
sport, regardless of, not having another 7 WAR season. And I worry that, you don't want to sell your players for peanuts, but I worry that they might be overplaying their hand here.
Yeah,
And you need to come to a compromise if you want a deal to occur. It can't be your way or the highway.
Yeah, and for as many strides forward as Breslow has taken in these 2 years, I think that this is maybe still the biggest knock against him. I don't understand if you've got a team that's willing to trade a frontline playoff caliber starter for Jarren Duran, why are we beating around the bush here? If Cole Ragans is on the table and the Royals are saying Jarren Duran has to be part of it, I don't understand why there's any hang up there. If they want him that bad, they'll maybe attach a prospect to Ragans. Or if you want Ragans and Pasquantino, you can do Duran and Password and Peyton Tolley or Connolly Early, something like that to get a deal done. Which is that's kind of that's my framework. I think that for Ragans, straight up, you're looking at probably Duran and either Tolley or Early headed back to Kansas City. I think that if you're looking at Ragans and Pasquantino to take over first, you're looking at Duran, Early, Tolley, maybe Christian Campbell. You throw in. I think the password's gone at some point this season. I just don't know where this off season. I just don't know where he's going. I think that the crazy deal. Kind of tip my hand a little bit here. I don't think that Brian Bayo is safe from being traded this offseason.
I've been thinking that for a bit. I think the success of the 2026 rotation depends on him. He's the bridge between the front and the back of the rotation. If he does well, that's good for the rotation. If he's he has a few bad outings there, that could rock everything, no matter what time of the season.
So I guess here's the $1 million question. Would you rather have a starting 3 rotation of Crochet, Ragans, Bayo, Crochet, Ragans, Gray?
The second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first one doesn't give you, like, Sonny Gray's not in there, but I think realistically, you would have to slot Brian Bayo in as your number 3, even with Gray around, because he's developed here in Boston. He is here long term. Jarren Duran and Brian Bayo for Cole Ragans is tough to say no to. That's real tough to say no to.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Would be sad to see him go, but maybe he's a change of scenery candidate too.
And I love Brian Bayo. That's well established on Talk Sox through the podcast and the website. He is maybe my favorite starter outside of Garrett Crochet. I actually think that he won't be involved in the Ragans deal, though, and we'll talk about the trade that I think that he will be involved in. At one point, I did think he would be involved in the Ragans deal. But with new information that we found out today about who the Red Sox are interested in to maybe take over second base, and we'll get to that here in a minute, I think that that's where we could see Brian Bayo. I think the other thing that kind of ties into Duran's value, and I gave it its own little thing there on the sidebar, is the team is effectively making themselves choose between either Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu if they are going to trade from somebody. And if they're valuing Jarren as more of the 7-win player versus the 3-win player, you would think that that would mean that Wilyer is the guy who's on his way out, which to me doesn't make sense. Wilyer has owned right field in Fenway for the past 2 seasons. He's a 2-time Gold Glover. He has far more power than Jarren Duran. The only thing where Duran has over him, in my opinion, is speed. You let Wilyer play the bulk of games, let him get time against lefties. It's his 3rd season. Duran was able to start getting time against lefties last year. Casas was getting time against lefties last year after easing them into it. So Wilyer should be facing more lefties than not this year, which means that the platoon isn't nearly as necessary. And I don't understand why Wilyer would be the odd man out. What's your take on it?
The outfield market is really, really weak outside of Kyle Tucker, and most teams can't afford his projected $400 million contract. And the other thing, too, is that young, elite, controllable outfielders are like prime extension candidates. Merrill was extended by the Padres. Anthony with the Red Sox.
I wrote earlier this season how Wilyer needed to be one of the next extensions they offered.
I remember reading that. Well, 2 Gold Gloves under his belt. He's what, 26?
Yeah.
And we're seeing the market now just narrowing because of that. So it depends. Honestly, I was at a point where I thought they could trade both of them and then maybe swing for Kyle. No, not Kyle Tucker.
You wanted Cody Bellinger.
Cody Bellinger, yeah. Yeah, I still do.
Yeah.
But yeah, with just the talks about the modest financial loss, I don't see that occurring now.
No.
I mean, Ref Snyder is also a free agent. I think if they would keep Abreu, they would need to bring him back as a platoon partner for him. And I know you said about giving him more time against lefties, but I mean you have to have a backup plan.
You still have to have an insurance policy there in place. As we saw with Bregman, you never know when a hamstring's going to pop back up. That's the injury that Wilyer had towards the end of the season, and when he came back from it, he was a shell of himself. Although if you have not heard the clip of them clinching the wild card spot of Wilyer, that is the happiest man in the history of Earth. He sounds like Cookie Monster. It's incredible. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's so good. Anytime I'm feeling a little down, I'll just pop that clip up and let Wilyer just bring me back to happiness. I love Wilyer. Some people say that I love Wilyer too much. Part of it is that it's the shrewdest deal I've ever in my life witnessed that brought him to Boston. Christian Vasquez for Wilyer. And I honestly forgot who else came over in the deal. He no longer plays for the Red Sox. But it was a 2-for-1 swap with the Astros for Christian Vasquez, and the Red Sox have gotten 2 Gold Gloves out of it. So I think that it's safe to say that the Red Sox have handedly won that trade, and I give all the credit to Chaim Bloom for that. It would be tough for me, not that it matters, but for me it would be tough to see Wilyer traded. I have come to terms with the fact that Jarren Duran doesn't fit the long-term plans of this team, whereas I think Wilyer does. once again, if you've got a team, man, if the Pirates are like, you know what, we'll trade you Paul Skeens if Wilyer's part of the deal. Of course you do that. But that's the only way I see trading him is for somebody who's infinitely better than a Cole Ragans. And there's not many of those around.
Yeah, if we're talking left-handed starters, I'm in trades, Tarek Skubal, but
Yeah.
I don't see him really aligning with the Tigers' current roster.
No. Whereas I actually could see Jarren Duran.
Yeah.
He kind of fits in that age range more. They need speed. They need in that ballpark, Duran would probably break the triples record.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's not unprecedented. And we know nothing, obviously, but if Duran was to pick a park to go play in that's not Fenway, I think he'd go join his buddy Rafael Devers out in San Francisco. Duran would hit like 50 triples out there. It would be he would be ecstatic out there. Now, obviously, like that's probably not going to happen, but that is definitely a place where he would thrive, and I think that's something that he would. I think that's probably kind of in the back of his mind. Is okay if I'm being traded. What do these home ballparks look like? What kind of hitting profile I have there. A lot of what Alex Bregman was going through last offseason when he was choosing where to play. And I think that's one reason why everybody's still cautiously optimistic that Bregman is coming back to Boston. Because if he wanted to play for the Tigers, he would have taken the Tigers' money last offseason.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies are the only team that worries me to like swoop in and steal Bregman away.
I think they're more concerned about retaining Schwarber than trying to upgrade and upgrade at third. And I know Bohm was on that list of and I don't know what the Phillies are doing.
I wouldn't hate Alec Bohm if Bregman doesn't come back, but I think that I would rather take my chances with Okamoto.
Mm-hmm.
And probably even Murakami too, over Bohm.
Yeah. The thing with Bohm that just confuses me is that he's like 6'5", pretty lean, and he never has tapped into his potential to hit for power. He's just a contact guy.
Yep.
And also
and
really slow.
Out of the third base spot, Bregman's not like David Ortiz slugger, but Bregman's got pop, and Bohm just kind of runs into him every now and then.
Yeah, he's very streaky.
Yeah. So I think that most Red Sox ideal plans involve re-signing Alex Bregman, bringing in Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber, which I know we talk about him, or I talk about him on here a lot. The Section 10 boys have been pretty quiet. I think there's some like things going on between them and Underdog. But Baseball is Dead is recording twice a week still. And Carabas is talking a lot about, the Sox are really engaged with a big bat. The Sox are really engaged with a big bat. And for a while, it was pretty obvious he was talking about Alonso. The last week or so, it has been a lot more Schwarber than anything else. And was it Heyman, who you always have to take what he says with a grain of salt because he's Scott Boris's hype man. Was it Heyman that came out and said that the Phillies are expected to maintain or to retain Kyle Schwarber, but the Red Sox, the Reds, the Pirates, like it was an odd collection of teams are all expected to make a run for him at the winter meetings. And multiple writers have said that they believe he will be the first big bat off the board, and virtually none of them expect him to sign after the winter meetings. They think that he will sign sometime at the beginning of next week.
Huh. Hmm.
And obviously,
You
the
know,
hitting market is waiting on him or Alonso.
yeah. You- The Reds are interesting that they're included in that group for Schwarber
Yeah.
because I mean they
Can
need
you
a big bat.
imagine him in Great American Ballpark?
Oh, he'd be hitting balls into the Ohio
Yeah.
River.
I mean, he's going to hit 50 at home next year
Yeah.
if he signs with the Reds.
The steamboat would just be fireworks all the game.
Just as soon as the first pitch, just set him off.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think the Reds or the Pirates have any real shot of getting into Kyle Schwarber. And the Pirates are rumored to be sniffing around Alonso too, which I think is interesting. Excuse me.
Yeah, I saw the Pirates were linked to Alonso and Schwarber, and it makes sense. I mean, when you have one, if not the best pitcher come up through your system, you want to,
Yeah.
try to build a semi-competitive team around him.
Mm-hmm. But do you, when you know that you're not going to be able to afford him when push comes to shove, and you might as well have to trade? Like, I don't understand why they're not fielding actual offers for him right now. Um,
Well,
I
he's
it just doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
From a business model, though, just he's the only reason some fans probably even come to the stadium when they're home.
Except on Mac Miller bobblehead night.
Well, oh, that too. I forgot he's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, the pictures from that night this past season were crazy. They were like people were lined up across the bridge to get into PNC. I don't think they've been that packed in years. So don't be surprised to see them tap into Mac Miller's legacy again sometime in 2026. But I think I can't wait for the winter meetings. Like I was telling you and Brock, they come at the absolute worst time for me this year because we host a giant basketball tournament at my school starting on the 8th all through next week. And so I am positive that something is going to happen while I'm working these basketball games. And, and I'll figure it out. We'll be here. We'll I'll go live from my cell phone inside our stadium if I need to. But this is my favorite time of year, but it's lining up horribly for me work-wise. The last thing that we've got here on the sidebar is we've talked about it in our Slack channel really since the end of the season that Ketel Marte makes more than the most amount of sense for the Red Sox to trade for. The Diamondbacks are willing to listen to offers. The tweet, let me pull that tweet up now. That tweet said, the Boston Red Sox, Detroit Tigers, and Tampa Bay Rays are all on the radar for a potential trade of Ketel Marte per Bob Nightingale. The Diamondbacks are looking for pitching and lots of it in a return package. I think that Marte, if a deal for Marte is struck, I don't think Bregman comes back. I think that you'll see Marcelo Meyer take over third. Marte slot in at second. Story at short. First base is still a question. But this is the deal where I think that Brian Bayo becomes involved now. If the Diamondbacks are looking for pitching, using Brian Bayo and some combination of, if you trade Tollier early as part of like a Ragans deal, you're not going to trade the other one to the Diamondbacks. Bayo with Tanner Houck, who is obviously out for the season, but Bayo with Tanner Houck and you know, David Sandlin. We haven't brought him up in a trade in a while. Somebody, AAA depth, AA depth. If Ketel Marte is on this team, even more so than a Cole Ragans, that solves almost all of the defensive problems that the Red Sox would have.
I agree. Yeah, they're not like, the flashiest moves, but, you don't need that to,
The Red Sox have
upgrade your
had
roster.
the worst production from second base for the past 4 seasons. Ketel Marte is a phenomenal defender at second. He's a good offensive player. Suddenly, the giant hole in the middle isn't giant anymore, and you've got somebody who is probably looking to get out of Arizona. And Arizona seems to be willing to grant that request for, quote, lots and lots of pitching. Luckily for the Red Sox, they have lots and lots of pitching. But I think that if Brian Bayo's moved now, Ketel Marte is the return package there.
Huh. I remember reading that the Red Sox engaged in discussions with the Diamondbacks for Merrill Kelly at the deadline, but it was Connolly Early and Peyton Tolley who they were interested in, and then they heavily scouted them, which is why Tolley got shelled when they were in Arizona. Yes. I think that was August. So I'm not sure if I see them wanting Bayo, but if they're very desperate for pitching, could play into that.
I think he slots in about the same position he would for the Red Sox next year, as a hybrid 3. At best, you want him as a 3. You don't want him as a 2. But if he's a 3-4, I think that is kind of best case scenario. Obviously, they're probably looking for Tolley or Early, but like I said, if you're attaching one of them in a possible deal for Ragans, I think it's highly unlikely the other one's going to Arizona. If the Ragans deal falls through and Michael King is brought in, or Pablo Lopez, and either one of them are not involved in that deal, then absolutely. I think Early has the higher ceiling.
I agree.
Than Tolley. I think Tolley has a higher floor. But and we won't know anything until spring training, but Tolley has yet to show an effective secondary pitch, whereas Early looks like he obviously still has things to learn, but a more complete starter.
Yeah, Tolley looks like he could be in the rotation, just depending where, depends on his development, versus Tolley at his worst, he could be a bullpen guy.
Yeah. And that's obviously not what he wants for his career. He wants to be a starter, but
I think every pitcher wants to be a starter. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go back to the Nick Pivetta comments from a couple years ago. And then they made him go to the bullpen and he thrived. He was great, So I think it just all kind of depends about kind of your attitude towards the game and the team in general. But I think that I want Cole Ragans a lot. But there are starting pitchers that you could sign. I know I said that I wanted Ragans over all of them, and that's true. But there's starting pitchers on the free agent market that you could sign for just money that don't cost trade pieces. And if that's what it takes to land a Ketel Marte, I think that I would move Marte into a higher position on my needs and wants list. Because he does fix your biggest problem on defense.
Yeah, and I think he's what, 32, Bregman's 31, even though he's a year older, and it's not a huge difference. Is
Right.
more he has more potential to hit for power than Bregman.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that if you shift Marcelo to third, which he showed after he was called up after Bregman got hurt, that he can play third base incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you shift him to third, he kind of settles in and hopefully he finds his offensive stroke throughout spring training. And we're having a conversation about, Marcelo is third base of the future. And there's power there. Not Rafael Devers' power, but there is as much, if not probably more power than Alex Bregman with Marcelo Meyer. And so if you're able to run Meyer at third, Story at short for the next couple of seasons, Marte at second, and then Casas, Akamoto. I think if you're trading for Marte, if you're signing starter, you're not signing Alonso too. Then first base is still a question mark, but first base can be a not super net positive on defense as long as they can hit. And if that's Tristan Casas, that's great. We would both love to see that. If that's Akamoto, Murakami, if they could swing a trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Oh, no. Oh,
I wonder what the Blue Jays would ask for. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, winter meetings start in Orlando just 5 days away from when this post. We won't be back. We'll probably be back next week with something. We don't have a regularly scheduled podcast for next week. But if nothing happens at the winter meetings or nothing big happens at the winter meetings, we'll be back in a couple of weeks to, I guess, give the rundown of it and where we see the Red Sox going from there. But I expect something to happen next week.
I hope.
I don't think Breslow can go through the winter meetings without doing something.
Yeah, and I mean we mentioned this earlier. The Blue Jays just signed Dylan Cease. That's one big name off the board. I mean, I haven't heard any reports that the Red Sox were engaging in discussions with him, but I mean, you don't want to wait around too long and then scramble for a trade, signing, and then overpay when your competition already has their ducks lined up.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's how it kind of lined out to get Trevor Story to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Is, Heim was kind of left holding the bag and was like, oh, crap, I've got to do something. Trevor Story's available. And then, shoehorned him in to second base and kind of tried to smooth things over with Xander. And everybody is familiar. If you're listening to this podcast, you're familiar with Xander Bogaerts' situation. I'm not going to rehash it, but, you like you said, Maddie, you don't want to be stuck in that situation where it's like, the only person left is Jorge Polanco. Let's sign him for a deal that doesn't make sense. And I like Jorge Polanco, but not for more than like a 2-year deal. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I am anticipating, like we said, having at least one kind of breaking news podcast next week, hopefully. Fingers crossed that it's a deal for Paul Skeens to the Boston Red Sox. But if it's not, we'll be here for whatever it is.
Cole Ragans is a nice consolation prize for Paul Skeens.
I will gladly take Cole Ragans. Are you working on anything for the site right now, Maddie?
I'm not. Are you?
I am finishing up that piece about how Royals and Red Sox match up. Probably have it submitted tomorrow, so it'll post sometime before the winter meetings begin. Get out in front of Cole Ragans, Vinny Pasquantino swap for Jarren Duran straight up. Oh, I would be if they could pull that one off. Yeah, that's kind of. I was working on a piece about why the Red Sox should sign Devin Williams, and then he signed with the Mets last night. So, so that's out the door. But my best friend's team is the Mets, and so I'll be able to keep tabs on Devin Williams, and I hope that he does well. It's just kind of nice that the Red Sox don't have to be in the market for a closer again, thanks to the extension with Chapman last season. But yeah, that's the only thing I've got going right now. But my winter break is quickly approaching, and so I'm hoping to write quite a bit more as we get there. And hopefully with the winter meetings, we've got a lot to write about next week. So stay tuned to Talk Sox, and when something happens, not if, when, positive vibes out in the world for the winter meetings. We'll be here
Manifest
on the
it.
Talk Sox. Yes, just everybody, if you'll take a second here in the last minute of the podcast and just believe that Cole Ragans will be traded for at the winter meetings.
The words of affirmation. Yeah.
Make it your daily mantra from now until the 11th. We'll be here on the Talk Sox podcast to talk about it. And should it involve a team where we know somebody who knows more about that team than we do, we'll try to bring them on like we did last week. So thanks for listening, and we will hopefully see you guys next week during the winter meetings.
Take care.